Hello, people. How's it going? Well, it's another cold day here in Minnesota. Almost, I think it's probably above zero now. What's in this morning? Above zero now. Now, despite everything I'm going to say about what he wrote, this book is excellent. It's a very good book of this guy. I'm, he's one of those authors that I find far more interesting than what he wrote. Because what I think he wrote, particularly Catcher in the Rye, is average. I'm sorry. I don't get it. And it's not because I'm old. I just don't get it. I know the book. Let's deal with this first. I mean, it's one of the most popular and mysterious figures in American literary history. Yeah, by his own creation. The author of the classic Catcher in the Rye. Classic? J.D.Salinger eluded fans on purpose. Because, here, I wrote this thing, now read it, but don't tell me anything about it. Don't talk to me, don't look at me, and don't bother me. Okay, J.D., then why did you write it? Oh, I wanted to write something, then I wanted to write something. Well, when you write something, people want to talk to you about it. And they're going to come up with ideas. And then when you're trying to hide your private life, they're going to think something's up. I want to be left alone. Well, J.D., you went about it the wrong way. He was an interesting guy. Don't get me wrong. He really was a very interesting guy. His war experiences in Normandy and the Hurtgen Forest and Normandy really did give him a lot of post-traumatic syndrome. It really was. It really did affect him very badly. It really did. A lot of, I think, the way he was because of that. Now is the subject of the indefinite biography, which it is a very good biography, don't get me wrong. It is a very good biography, which is filled with new information, revelations, garnered from countless interviews, letters, public records, which he desperately tried to keep people from ever reading, even if it was boring. He kept trying to keep his life private and secret, and yet there really wasn't a whole lot there, Salinger, to really worry about. You made it into something that it wasn't. If you just answered the questions and went about your business and not cared, nobody would care. Oh, I like him. That's just it. He frustrates me. Only because it's like, I wrote a novel. Now I want you to read it, but I don't want you to tell me anything else other than you read it and you walk away and you never talk to me again. J.D., that's not how it works. He was an interesting guy. The author explores Salinger's frivolous youth, long obscured by misrepresentation and rumor, revealed the brilliant, sarcastic, vulnerable son of a disciplined Jewish father and doting Jewish mother. Here, Shorty accounts of Salinger's first broken heart after his Una Neal's daughter Una left him for Charlie Chaplin, by the way. That really did devastate him. He really thought he had found the right person. He really did love her. He really did like her. Una O'Neill was a little flaky, but it couldn't have been easy for her with him. Salinger, I like Salinger. I can't really say anything bad about the man because I get it. I have criticisms of his work, of how he handled certain things, and about this, that, and the other, but the man himself is very interesting. I mean, the author does a very good job of trying to flesh out this guy who tried his hardest to be ignored. And the more he tried to be ignored and left alone, the more people kept bothering him and bugging him and wanting to find out what is he trying to hide, what about his private life, how much of himself is in his stories. And he didn't have a problem saying, look, yeah, a lot of it has to do with my life. And then when people would want to know more about him, he said, no, leave my private life alone. No, just read my stuff. No. He wanted a private life being a writer. I'm going to use an English phrase, chalk and cheese. Two very contradictory things that have nothing to do with each other and cannot function together. Chalk and cheese is an English expression. My mother told me this. But anyway, but yes, his family, she was Una O'Neill. She lived a long time. Charlie Chaplin and her lived a very long life together. Let's see, and the devastating World War II service that haunted him forever. And that is probably to me the best part of this book. The best part of this book is dealing with his World War II experiences. And I mean, he was there in Normandy. He went through the Hurricane. The Hurricane Forest was one of those operations that never should have happened. It was a waste of human life. It may have been one of the worst places to try to do an end run around the Nazi Party or around the German army. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, a logistics nightmare, and anything else you can think of nightmare. It was a mess. Let me think here just a minute, because I want to get the vision again. Sorry, J.D. I find them interesting. I found the book interesting. Let's see, World War II. In 1942, J.D.Salinger started dating Una O'Neill, as I said, daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill, my favorite playwright, by the way. Despite finding her immeasurably self-absorbed, and she was, he confided to a friend that little Una was hopelessly in love with little Una. He called her often and wrote her long letters, Charlie Chaplin. She ended up marrying Charlie Chaplin, as I said. Where we go. In 1942, several months after the U.S. entered World War II, Salinger was drafted into the Army, where he saw combat with the 12th Infantry Regiment, 4th Infantry Division. He was present at Utah Beach on D-Day, the Battle of the Bulge, and the Battle of Hurricane Forest. You understand, the Hurricane Forest really was a nightmare for the Americans. It really was one mess-up problem after another. The Allies really had no clue what they were doing. It was probably one of the worst places you could possibly try to do an end run or any kind of other battle against the Germans. The Germans were a problem. The forest was worse. It just was not made for tanks and artillery and all the things you need to fight a battle. But it did. It affected Salinger very much. And I get that. I mean, I get that. I understand it. This book doesn't. But my favorite part of this book is when he talks about his World War II experiences. His friendship with Ernest Hemingway, and it talks about meeting Hemingway, and it talks about his interactions with the military and the war and the people he won, lost, and met. Does a very good job, and maybe the best part of this book. Let's see. Horse Holiday Forever, J.D.Salinger features his officers' dramatic encounters with luminaries from Ernest Hemingway to Elia Kazan, his office intrigues with the famous New York editors and writers, and the stunning triumph of Catcher in the Rye. Sure, why not? Which would both make him world famous, which he did not like, but yet one. Okay, I'm sorry, but what I get from a lot from this book is Salinger wanted to write, but he wanted to almost be obscure about it, but at the same time, that might be the most frustrating thing about J.D.Salinger to me is that he writes all he wants to be a writer, he wants to say something, but at the same time he wants to have a private life and he wants to not be bothered by those nagging questions people ask. Well, then you don't write. You don't write anything then, there, J.D. I'm sorry. You don't want people to ask you questions. You don't write stories using your family as a background or characters. It's not how it works. Believe me. Oh, see. It hastened his retreat to the hills of New Hampshire, which he did. He disappeared when he tried to, anyway, because people still came. Still invaded his privacy. He stopped writing. I mean, he literally just stopped writing. Well, he stopped writing to be published. This book implies that he wrote even while he was not publishing anything. He kept writing things. He was constantly threatening litigation about people trying to publish stories that they thought they found of his without his permission. He was very possessive of his work. Now that I understand. He was very possessive of the people, the characters he created. I understand that too. That makes sense. But when you kind of imply that, So if it's factual, people are going to want to know, well, which parts? Well, J.D. kind of made a double-edged sword that you can't get away from. And he tried to. He really did. But but anyway, I like this book. I like him. Despite my frustrations with him as a writer, a fellow writer, and his practical, pathological fear of people asking him questions, mundane questions bothered him. A lot of things bothered him. J.D.Salinger was he was an interesting guy. Don't get me wrong. He was a very interesting fellow. He was a good writer. I'm going to say he was a good writer to be nice. He was not a bad writer. He was not a schlocky writer. He was very careful with his craft. He went out of his way to just he wanted it to be perfect. Like James Joyce, he agonized over what he was writing. He would rewrite things, which is what a writer should do. But it gets to the point when you don't finish anything, or you're so. He's a writer. Like most writers, they're pathologically crazy. But he drove himself crazy. He just did. He drove himself nuts. But he was. Don't get me wrong. Look, proof that I actually have his books. I've read it. I've read Catcher in the Rye. I'm sorry. It's average. Hi. I'm Adam Caulfield, and I'm going to complain and whine that adults are humans, are normal. They lie. They do this, that, and the other. Hey, Caulfield. Hey, Salinger. They're not perfect. Get over it. Oh, another thing. This book also deals with his getting into Eastern philosophy and religion. Does a very good job of some of the. He really is trying to connect his writing with his, particularly in this book. In this book, he really is trying to connect his Eastern philosophy and his writing technique, his ideas, his philosophy. Excuse me, I'm recovering from something. But I'm sorry, this is just an average book of a teenage boy whining and complaining that adults are not perfect. Well, I know at least one person who really likes this book, and I'm probably not going to like this review I'm doing right now. But I'm sorry, I could not finish it. I tried. I got tired of the whining. Yes, people lie. People don't tell the truth. That's true, they don't. Welcome to human nature, which is why I like to write. I like writing about human nature. I don't expect people to be perfect, and I don't have expectations of them anymore. Because I'm not perfect like I expect anybody else to be perfect. I have his 9 short stories. He wrote a lot more than just these. He wrote a lot of short stories, and he was very, very protective of them. He would not let them be published. He did not want. He took people to court. He took authors who wrote biographies about him to court because they wrote about him and quoted him and quoted this, that, and the other. He was pathological in his just wanting a private life. And if you're going to be a writer, you're really not going to have a private life. Not really. And then there's this one. This one is the one that deals with him trying to combine his New Eastern philosophy, mostly Buddhism, if I remember correctly. He was interesting. He was looking for peace. He was looking for some sort of balancing act that just doesn't happen in human nature. I mean, J.D., I'm sorry, but it ain't gonna happen. People are screwed up. Sorry, Caulfield, but adults fly. Get over it. Now, I have to find. I'm trying to find the other books of him too. I'm sorry. People may like this book, and that's fine. That's fine. I found it average. Sorry. I do like his short stories, and I will give him that. That might be part of my problems. I'm more of a short story guy. I do like his short stories, and I do like A Perfect Day for Banana Fish, and I can't tell you why. I think that's maybe one of the few stories he's written I like. Oh, I do like his short stories. Not all of them, but I like most of them. There's he has an interesting way of looking at things. But yeah, but anyway, but yeah, I would recommend the biography. I would read it. I'm not a big fan of his actual work, the short stories. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm just not. But him himself, the man himself, the writer himself, was interesting. His ups and downs, his battle with himself and everybody else around him. And but as I said, I think the best part of the book, this biography, is his 4 years. I think that's really what made him what he was, the kind of writer he became, and what he was trying to say. Because a lot of his stories, you can tell he's working things out. This is what writers do anyway. But anyway. So yes, I would recommend this book highly. I would recommend that biography very highly. Salinger, you need to just jump. I know he lived to be 91. I believe he died when he was 91. Let's see. Well, he was born January 1st, 1919, and died in January 2010. So, what an interesting guy. Yes. He had problems, like most all people do. He wasn't boring. No. J.D.Salinger is definitely not boring. I just don't think he quite understands that you don't have a private life when you're a writer, and particularly when you use your own family in stories. People are going to ask questions, JD. They just are. And telling them there's nothing to see here only makes them convinced there's something to see there. He was an interesting guy to talk to. I think I would have had very interesting conversations with Mr. Salinger. Anyway, excellent biography. Very much worth reading. What he wrote, depending on what it is. But the biography is good. Anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching.